Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hello and welcome to the April 3rd edition of Basis Loaded with Joe Schmit. I am Joe Schmit. This episode, as always, is produced by Paige Driscoll with help of the EverAg Insights team. It is the April showers portion of the year. You know what they say, April showers bring grueling morning traffic. Something about Mayflowers also, but what better way to celebrate this rainy April than the latest from the NDPSR report? Let's start with butter. This butter number coming in at 286.51 represents a plus 4 to the CME 1 week average of 282.10. Plus 4 is above our expected basis, and we were able to achieve that with 16 loads trading at the CME last week. Those 16 loads traded at a little bit higher price than that 182.10 CME average, but plus 4 is a really nice basis. So it shows that end user appetite is not dampened by this new elevated level for butter, because at that plus 4, buyers took more than 3.3 million pounds. So a little bit short of our 3.5 expected volume, but when you combine that we were pretty close to that expected volume with a plus 4 basis, all in all, I'd have to call that a win for the butter manufacturer. Let's follow that up with the latest from the cheese complex, and starting with blocks, 151.13. That also is a really nice basis. That's a plus 5 to the CME 1 week average of 144.95. Traded 25 loads at the CME last week. That was at a level lower than that 144.95. So still able to maintain that positive basis even with all the weight that we traded at the CME. It's interesting here on the NDPSR, at that elevated level, the manufacturer was able to move more than 12.5 million pounds. So the average NDPSR block volume during 2023 was right around 12 million pounds. So the manufacturer was able to move close to 600,000 pounds over that and still pull a plus 5 positive basis. Impressive for the blocks, as prices on the NDPSR are a little bit sticky relative to the move at the CME, where prices decrease to the low 140 neighborhood. In barrels, 153.05. That's a plus 7 to the CME 2 week average of 145.75. Now, we traded 22 loads on the CME last week, so barrel volume was robust. And again, that's at a lower level than that 2 week average of 145.75. So the fact that the manufacturer was able to pull a plus 7, certainly impressive. And again, further evidence that these NDPSR prices are slow moving relative to the changes that we're seeing on the CME. NDPSR volume just short of 13.5 million and below the 2023 weekly NDPSR volume of 13.8 million. So a little bit of a disappointment on volume. However, the manufacturer was able to call higher than normal basis at that plus 7 positive basis. All in all, I'd have to call it a win in cheese, as they were able to hold on to these higher levels despite the decreases that we've seen at the CME. However, it would be interesting to see how those decreases at the CME reflect prices in the weeks to come. Up next is whey, 46.21. That's a nice number relative to the CME 1 week average of 43 even. That's a plus 3 positive basis. We traded 1 load at the CME last week, so not a whole lot to talk about there. Even with that limited volume at the CME last week, NDPSR volume still north of 5 million pounds. So 500,000 pounds over our expected 4.5 million plus 3 positive basis. Again, CME has moved to a new level lower than these high 40s that we're seeing on the NDPSR. Prices here, just as on the way up, they were slow to increase. Now prices in the way slow to decrease on the way down. Still holding above 46 as the CME this week moves sub 40 cents. And then lastly, non-fat, 114.02. That's a minus 2 to the CME 1 week average of 116.15. So the only product on this week's NDPSR report to show negative basis, -2, is a little bit lower than our expected 2-cent positive basis. So the manufacturer discounted a little bit to move some weight. And did he move weight? Yes, sir. 23 million pounds. 2 weeks in a row that NDPSR sales volume is over 23 million pounds. And that's 2 weeks in a row that NDPSR volume is 3 million pounds over our expected weekly NDPSR volume. So the manufacturer is having to discount a touch, but at that lower level, that sales price, if you will, able to move a lot of weight, which is impressive nonetheless. So this is the final week of the March pricing cycle, as you would expect now that it's April. So the March Class 3 final is 1634, one tick higher than where the futures expired yesterday. And the March Class 4 comes in at 2009. If you carry current CME equivalents out through the entirety of the 4-week April pricing cycle, currently getting an April Class 3 expiration of 15/17, with April Class 4 all the way up at 1985. We'll see what they have in store for us in the weeks to come at the CME. Until then, on behalf of Paige and the entire EverAg Insights team, thanks so much. Talk next week. Bye.